Commence primary ignition.
Hi, I'm Juan Davis, ILM model maker, and you're watching the Virtual Cantina.
A lot of intros.
Yeah, welcome, citizens. You're back again for another episode of the Clone Wars Revisited with Mark Van Olen and myself. Ashley's out tonight, so we're going to have a big old time without her, but hopefully she'll be getting better, and we'll see her next week.
It's Boys Night on the network.
Boys Night on the network.
Ashley's sick. I've kind of been under the weather since Friday. Undiagnosed, but I thought I had food poisoning, and then there was a belief that maybe it was the norovirus. But yet whatever it was, it sucks. And it's like, of course, at the end of the year now, and I'm just counting up my illnesses from 2024 at this point. It's been a shitty health year all around, from E. coli to this and everything in between. I think I've mentioned on this channel a few times, I used every sick day I had this year, which is wild.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just worried that all of a sudden you're going to need to make an exit, and then I'm going to be sitting here talking to myself and watching an edition of Clone Wars.
I'll be okay. I'm just a little tired, so I poured myself a cup of coffee, which, it's a little late for that, but I was like, let me energize. And I feel like once we get talking and people join us in the chat and, we start like getting on about Star Wars and more importantly about Superman, since we have some news, which I think we're both excited. So we will be on the same page to talk about Superman. All right, so Skip, what'd you think?
I'm one of those people that's bummed that Cavill didn't get another chance. But I do like the idea. Okay, so let's be positive. I like the idea that they're not starting out with an origin story, that it's going straight into, from what I can tell, going straight into the Superman, period. Here we go. And we all know he's there. It's not we're having to go, where did he come from and all that other stuff that has been like,
we're a few years in.
Reeve, I've seen him do it. The only reason that Brandon Routh didn't do it, and though they touched on it, was because he was finishing Christopher Reeve's story. And then we've got Cavill, and then we've seen. I mean, we've just seen that origin story so many times. I'm just ready to get into Superman. I mean, I'm kind of happy with that. I was never thrilled about the Batman versus Superman storyline. So, and to be honest with you, I know everybody's making a big what about all the other superheroes brought in. But, I think it's kind of cool. It makes it, the best bouquet of flowers has a bunch of different stuff in it, and so I'm ready for the bouquet. Give me
world.
Yeah. And the people that were, you show your lack of fandom. Oh, that's awful to say, but you show your lack of fandom when you're watching a Green Lantern and you don't know who he is because you're looking for Hal Jordan. Instead of
there's more than two, more than Hal and John. We have Guy.
And Guy always was. I mean, he looked actually just exactly like Guy looks in the comics. I mean, I thought if they're going for comic, comic like or very much reflecting the comics, I think they did a good job with him. I think Nathan will do a good job with that because he actually looked like him. I was like,
that wig is.
He's ugly like him too.
Let me tell you, I stand by my Nathan Fillion is too old to play Guy Gardner, so it also makes me think this isn't an origin story. He's been around for a while. We also know that he's like the third Green Lantern in the lineage, right? So Hal and John both exist and should probably appear in the Green Lantern TV show, meaning superheroes have been around for a while in whatever universe James Gunn is creating, and so much so that Guy Gardner is not just there, he's old now. Like,
Yeah.
that's what's so crazy about all of this. And then we found out today about Supergirl, which is in theory a sequel to Superman coming out next year. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, or something like that. We have some exciting casting news on that front, and you again, you and I, we agreed on this. We were like, oh, this is good news.
Yes. Yeah. Momo. I always want to say mimosa.
Mama. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would eat him like a mimosa. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Tasty like a mimosa.
He's gonna bring such an energy to,
Oh yeah,
it's Lobo, right?
yeah,
Lobo.
yeah, Lobo. It's definitely Lobo. I'm, it's kind of like you got to take this like you took, Chris Evans when he went from, Johnny Storm to
Mhm.
Captain America.
Yeah.
Because we just went from Aquaman to Lobo.
Hmm.
But I think that's a good pick for Lobo. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited about that. Lobo is one of those characters that, it's kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy. Everybody's like, well, I'd heard of him, but I don't know much about him. Lobo is probably the same way for a lot of, vague fandom folks that are like, well, I've heard about him. I don't know much about him. I think it could be something, though, that his character blows up and all of a sudden he has a, ninth degree level of excitement every time everybody talks about him because it's Momoa,
Mhm.
out there playing Lobo, which I think
Yeah.
will
Well, whose favorite
represent.
character 15 years ago was Iron Man? Not
Right.
mine. Like, and I don't want to say Iron Man was a D-list character, but he certainly wasn't an A-level tier Avenger. Like, if you told me Ant-Man was who they were going to hang their hat on, I could be like, oh, I can get behind that. Like, people know Ant-Man. And he kind of meant something to a lot of people, but fucking Iron Man, like, so maybe Lobo. You take some of these like lower tier characters, and you could really do something interesting with them. I think actually the expectation of like who plays
Yes.
Superman, who
Star
plays
Lord
Batman,
was like,
who plays
what? And
Wonder
now all of a
Woman, like
sudden
those
he's
are
on.
tricky. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you take Star Lord and he
Hmm.
and it was like who, and now
Yeah.
he's got what 3 movies?
You know how many
Um,
kids say their favorite character is Groot or Rocket? Like,
oh
that's
gotcha.
crazy. The talking squirrel? Like, what are we
Yeah,
doing here? So I guess he's the raccoon, but whatever he
Mercury.
is, the moose and squirrel, as I call them.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I'm excited about the weirdness of it all. And here's the thing, I am not a huge comic book guy. Like, I have to always say that as like my disclaimer. I do the visual media, so my reference for Lobo is actually more so the Justice League cartoon from the 90s and the aughts, and then the Young Justice cartoon, which had him featured prominently in season 3. Which Young Justice was like incredible until season 4, and then kind of fell off. But like, Lobo's a pretty good part of season 3, and it's a great character. I did a little bit of reading because like I want to stay up to date on like what the situation is. And apparently Lobo was started as like kind of a joke, and I was like, oh, he was making fun of Spawn and the other like overly angsty, like angry 90s gritty superheroes of the time. Which, that happens, and then the fandom loved him. So I was like, oh, you've done played yourself. Like, you now made this character we were all making fun of a fan favorite, and we're stuck with him forever. So, meanwhile, I'm checking in the chat. Let's check in the chat real quick. First of all, hi, Lori. Hello there. Very nice to see you. Eric, thank you for joining us. I agree. Aqua Lobo would be interesting. Can we see him swim at some point? Without a doubt. Ashley seems to be alive. That's great news. Hi, Ashley. And yes, we agree that Jason Momoa being Lobo could be really fun. Momoa Lobo is going to be a thing. And yes, he has wanted that role for a very long time, which is really interesting. Like, imagine playing a character as iconic as Aquaman, whether he was goofy or silly or whatever. Aquaman is still a top tier Justice Leaguer over the course of the last 50 years. And then being like, that's not enough. I got to play this like incredibly deep cut villainous character that I love and no one else even mostly doesn't even really know about. And I want it. And you know what? He'll turn it into $1 billion.
yeah, yeah. It's
Hey,
what
Sherry.
brings the name recognition, and then he looks more like the Lobo than
Yeah.
he did like Aquaman, and he was able to sell himself
When
as
he got
Aquaman.
cast for Aquaman, they were saying Aquaman looked like Lobo. I remember the discourse. And yeah, it was wild. And then someone was like, he also looks like Joe Manganiello. And I think Joe Manganiello at one point was on a short list to play Lobo. If that was ever going to happen in live action, that would have been a moment. I want to see Jason Momoa fight. Yeah, the two of them like fight would be incredible. Joe Manganiello versus Jason Momoa. That's a fight.
So, are you excited for the new year? Are you done with
I'm
2024?
Well, I don't have work tomorrow or Wednesday, so I'm excited to have a couple days off. We're leaving for
Because you
Vegas in a
worked so
couple
hard last
weeks.
week.
Well, I was busy last week. I really was actually, because we got the big trade show coming up, and so I feel like I can't disconnect. And then being sick all weekend, I didn't get to do any of the fun stuff I wanted to do. So I'm just gonna relax. Like we're not going out tomorrow night. We're not doing a big New Year's thing. We were invited to a few different parties. I honestly want to sit on my couch, like, and watch TV and maybe play some video games. What is on your agenda?
Well, Bridget and I, when we first got together, it was like, oh yeah, let's go out and do the whole.
Hmm.
We were young. We were still young back then. We would go out and club it up and dance it up.
Hmm.
But then, as we got married and so forth, it was kind of like, okay, let's go make date night of it. We'll go out. We'll have dinner at a nice restaurant, but we'll get home about 7, 8 o'clock while everybody else is making their way out.
Yep.
We'll be making our way
Go to
in
brunch. Hmm.
and avoid the craziness and be a little bit safer at home, and then sit around and watch TV and watch the ball drop and be like, okay,
Yeah.
I've gotten old enough now that I have slept through a New Year's Eve. So I can say that officially makes me old. The gray
Oh.
hair is definitely, it is definitely taking its effect on me. But no, I really do. I kind of like being at home. It has this season is a season of reflection for me. Take it at that.
Hmm. Yep.
Mom passed January 1st, 2:30 in the morning. So I watched the ball drop, and then I went back and hung out with my mom and watched the end of her party, and so it's kind of reflection and going, okay, here's the end of that.
Hmm.
And it's I'm kind of like, once again, I'm like, okay, this is a transition. I'm ready to do 2025. Got a lot of different things going on work wise. I've got crap tons of houses that I'm trying to put back together for people who have trees that fell through their roofs, water
Yeah.
that came through their house. I just, that it's one of those weird situations where, everybody, there's always this group when a natural disaster like this occurs that ends up being on the positive end of it, as
Hmm.
weird as it is. And I got to be that. This time it got to be me.
Hmm.
But yeah, I've got actually tomorrow. I got to go out and look at some houses that I haven't seen before, where people going, we had a tree fell through our roof. We got
And that's
so.
probably from months ago.
Oh yeah. These are people
Yeah.
that all this damage occurred September 27th,
Jesus.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
3 months. That's a
yeah,
whole quarter.
yeah.
Um, I hear you loud and clear on the transition of it all too, because you went through a major life-changing event, losing your mom, and then the hurricane like ravaged the town, and now you're in like a literally repair and rebuild year coming into 2025, which I feel like a lot of us are in and have been ever since COVID. I was telling someone like I feel like I sprained my ankle in COVID and I never walk the same ever again. And you just know that like fucked up ankle is still there, like slowing you down at all times. Well, even little things. Like I've been trying to exercise more and more, and I try to keep myself held accountable by posting on Instagram. And I will tell you that like when I go to the gym and I do my cardio is not anywhere near where it was 5 years ago and never will be, no matter how hard I try at it. Like I can lift heavier, but I just cannot, I don't have the same stamina. And it's the kind of thing where I'm like, all right, I'm going to really focus on that in 2025, but it's not coming back. Like I just sort of have to deal
You
with, okay,
start
the
learning to
ankle's
work.
broken forever.
Yeah, you learn. It's funny. I have there. There's a certain 27-year-old that works for me, and is very well in shape and works out. And there are sometimes things that I can do that he can't do, because it's learning how to work smarter, not harder.
Yep.
And how you get underneath of that, and how you take advantage of your body. I was rolling a 600 pound of round bale of hay out to my horses tonight, and sometimes they're light and sometimes they're heavy. And I got in that truck and I was like,
Mhm.
okay, and you learn how to kind of like, okay, if I can get it up just a little bit, if I can get it to the end where it jams, then I can, catch something on the truck and I can start pushing it. and then I can just kind of work my hands up and get that thing rolled out. And I'm like, yeah, 56 is still pushing those big ass bales of hay.
Hmm.
But the older you get, the wisdom definitely kicks in.
Yeah. Just
But
remember to lift with your back.
I'm looking forward to transitions. You think the older you got, the less you'd like to see those years passing by. But the transition from one year to the next year, I'm just not really afraid of what's happening next.
Yeah.
You know,
In some ways, it's more of a metaphorical reset. Like nothing changes tomorrow or Wednesday. Like literally nothing. The things that actually do reset is new vacation days and new sick days. Praise Jesus. Starting in 2025, because let me tell you, I came close to using one today, but I don't have any. So I worked from home instead of going into the office, and I was like trying my damnedest to just like stay on top of stuff. And it's the kind of thing where I'm like, oh, it's so like I. It was just a tough year for all that kind of stuff. And in theory, like you can set your resolutions and all of that, but if you don't have the mindset to follow through on them, it's just another, um, you know, time to do some empty promises. So last year, I was probably focused more than anything on like exercising regularly, which I pretty much stuck with. Like I was pretty good at that. Um, but like I don't have anything huge on the list for 2025 in terms of goals and objectives. I just want to travel more. Like I didn't travel nearly enough in 2024. I did do some great stuff, but outside of that, like I'm not setting resolutions anymore. I'm setting some like goals. Just wanting to go places and do things, and that's kind of it. Like just things that I want to do as opposed to tasks that I need to achieve.
I love
Um,
Sherry. I can't
yeah,
remember the last time I went out for New Year's Eve.
I gotta
That's how
tell
old I am.
So, Sherry, as a New Yorker, I have a particularly like cantankerous relationship with New Year's Eve. Like, we're literally the center of the universe, and our New Year's Eve, like New York City New Year's Eve, the ball drop is covered across the planet. It's really kind of wild, but I would never go out to that. And our bars and clubs and everything are wildly overpriced. It's expensive everywhere. I will say the subways run pretty well, so you don't have to worry about like getting cabs and that kind of stuff. But also, it's the Northeast. It's going to be freezing. Like even in like a nice day, like in on January 1st or December 31st, it's 30 degrees out. So it's never like a comfortable time. And then, it's a club. Like I'd rather spend time with friends and maybe do a house party. And we did get invited to a few house parties tomorrow. If I were feeling better, I'd consider it. But like, I'm in the camp of like, I see my friends every weekend. I have no commitments. I have no children. I have no responsibilities outside of my office at work and this little time that I'm on the channel right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm free as a bird, as uncaged as one can be. So I do not feel the need to go out on New Year's Eve. In fact, it might be our plan to just like rent Wicked for $29.99 and watch it at midnight or something. Which why not? I'd spend hundreds of dollars going out, so I can spend the $30 to stay in and enjoy the movie.
Well, I'm looking forward to a nice, chilled out, enjoyable evening. Maybe drink a little Biltmore Christmas wine
Hmm.
and just watch some. I started watching Ted Lasso. Um, I know it's over now, but that's the best time to watch it because now I can watch it all the way through. I
Hmm.
don't have to wait for any new seasons or new episodes. But
Yeah.
no, I was enjoying that, and I'll just kind of sit back, chill out. I love my house. I love my the land that I live on. Go out and check on my horses and be calm and cool.
Exactly. Enjoy the house we built or rent or whatever.
Yes,
The space in which we live. Jason just bought a new chair for the living room. My
there
coffee
we go.
table that I talked about on the last show, which is a gift from my mom for my ghost, should be arriving tomorrow. So we'll
Cool.
be able to put in the coffee table and then put the ghost on it, which will be nice. So yeah, the living room's going to feel nice and fresh, especially once the Christmas tree comes down, because that'll create some space. Because right now it's feeling a little cluttered in there. And I was on the couch like most of the day and actually most of the weekend. So it was like that kind of weird. It's been a weird weekend. And actually, Lori, I do want to confirm. I want to say it's $29.99 to buy the digital, but either way, like it might be then $24.99 to rent or something. Whatever it is, it's highway robbery. That being said, it is cheaper than going out on New Year's Eve. And yes, sing-alongs would be the way to do it. No one wants to hear me in a theater, but I kind of do want to go to a sing-along showing. I did that for Mamma Mia. I don't know, 15 years ago or whenever that happened in New York, and let me tell you, it was some gay nonsense. and then we all went to brunch. So it was a good time. But I'm sure the wicked ones, all those Broadway people, are going to come out of the woodwork and like burn down the theaters. Like it's going to be a thing.
You know what like blew me away and made me feel really old today was that Brian Seacrest was on Good Morning America, talking about doing the show tomorrow night, and he said this is his 20th year doing the Rockin' New Year's Eve.
Shut up.
Yeah,
No
that's
way.
what I said. And
He's
I
only
was like
been-
immediately looking for when did Dick Clark pass away, which was like 2012, in case you didn't know. And
Yeah, because he would co-host it with him. But he started American Idol 20 years ago, right? Didn't Idol start in like 03, 04? Right?
That's a good point. I had no idea. It was something around then. And
Yeah.
so apparently he was, from what I kind of put together is that he was coming on to help out a Dick Clark who was getting older
Yeah.
and had the stroke and couldn't perform like he could before. And then eventually, even before he died, he stopped doing it. And it was 2002. Thank you, Ashley, who's at home with Google at her fingertips.
Yeah.
But it was just like, oh my gosh, 20 years ago. I'm like,
wild.
No, because I remember when he wasn't on that show.
Right. Yeah.
Dick
Well,
Clark,
I remember when he wasn't everywhere because he has a radio show and now he's hosting Wheel of Fortune with Vanna White. And by the way, Vanna White, one of my first crushes as a child, also known as Clue. Love her. She is all over social media, and like Ryan is constantly on her social media. They do like Instagrams and TikTok together. And at one point she was doing her weightlifting because her arms are always on display. She's always clicking the letters, and she wears a lot of sleeveless dresses. So she was doing her weightlifting, and he's weightlifting with her in like the Instagram video. It's very funny. But it occurred to me, I was like, oh shit, he looks old now too, because he's in his 40s. He's like a few years older than me. And this was the first time I looked at him. I was like, oh, he's like an old man like me. Like, when did this happen? Like, he used to be like young and kind of hot. And now he's like an older hot, but like, it's a different thing. So yeah, it's like, what happened? We used to be young. I was screaming that last week at work too, because it was the kind of thing where
my wife's friend Allie had been over, and she had not seen Deadpool and Wolverine. And so we watched it last night. At the end of it, they're sitting there doing the montage, and I'm looking at Hugh Jackman when he was first playing, and I was like, God, he looks
back when he was like
young.
30.
Yeah, I was like, holy crap! Look what a baby he was when he started this. And of course, now I'm watching him tonight and going, he's not that old. And it's like, oh crap. Okay, so somebody Google, is he older than me? Is he younger than 56? But yeah, I mean, shit.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing too, though. Like, if you're in Hollywood, you age differently, right? Like, he's paid to look this way. Like, it's his full-time job to be this attractive and have this many people taking care of him. And his skincare regime is worth more than he spends more on just his skincare and his personal trainer than I earn in a year, right? So it's a different scale of like how you're able to take care of yourself. Like, it's money. More than anything else. But yeah, he looks amazing. By the way, I'm glad you mentioned Wolverine, because today, and yes, he is 56. Actually,
Hugh Jackman and I are the same age.
It's wild, yeah. And look, again, he's paid to look like that. The guy who's a stunt double, Daniel Stevens, was on the hot seat today on the Facebook page. So for anyone who was keeping up on the Star Wars Celebration Facebook page, we've been putting up every Monday a new hot seat interview from our VCN summer vacation. And I spoke with Daniel Stevens, who was the stunt double for Hugh Jackman in Deadpool and Wolverine. And actually, he's been his stunt guy for like 20 years, he said, and has done all the different X-Men movies with him. And he was super delightful. He's also in some Star Wars stuff, but like at the time we met him over the summer, like it was right on like the heels of Deadpool Wolverine coming out, so it was like the perfect topic to chat with him about, and he was lovely. He's also gigantic. He said he was only 180. It's like the guy looks like a live action figure. So I was like, this man is easily 200 something pounds of muscle. It was wild.
Well, it is the end of the year.
Yeah. I'm ready for it to be over. Let me tell you, it's been a tough one.
I was having to write a check today, and I was like, "Oh shit! Now I'm going to have to practice writing 25 on this check. How many 24s am I going to write before I stop that and get used to writing 25?"
I know it's gonna take a minute. I was even talking about stuff happening coming up, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's like a totally different year. Like it's flying by too fast because Halloween Party Expo's in 2 weeks, in January of '05 or '25, '05, and then
4 months
Toy
till
Fair is like
celebration.
6 weeks later, and then before you know it, we're on to like Celebration. Like Celebration is so soon. It's insanity. It's 4 months away, which means any minute now we're going to start getting meaningful updates from Lucasfilm, because
Yeah,
we're
I'm
in the
looking
four
forward to
month
that.
window. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm I have to say I'm just on the verge of getting excited, and I think as we get some
yeah,
more of the, what you get is as they start releasing names, you get the flavor of what they expect Celebration to be.
yeah.
Is it going to be heavy on Andor? Is it going to be heavy on Ahsoka? Is it going to be heavy on whatever? We don't figure it to be heavy on Acolyte,
No,
though we've got an Acolyte character or actor in it.
yeah.
You know,
I think they'll hit. Here's the thing now: Star Wars is so broad, you could easily have one person from every slice, and then just work your way down the cast list. But I do think there's going to be a theme of some type. One, it is the 10th anniversary of Force Awakens, and since that is when Disney really made a name for
took
itself.
over.
I mean, they bought the company in 2012, right? But like the first movie came out in 2015, so do they celebrate Force Awakens and the start of like the sequel trilogy as like 10 years and the impact of it with some representation from John and Daisy and Oscar and everyone else who is involved, and gives you an opportunity to bring back some of the OGs who are still with us, like Mike Quinn and Tim Rose. Um, and you talk about the start of that new trilogy, and then you give us some news related to like how that continues with Ray and whatever else, right? So you push that narrative, and then we have Andor wrapping up, like, right during that time period. You have to bring a lot of Andor people. You have to bring Genevieve O'Reilly. Like you have to bring like the core cast members, especially ones who have been in multiple projects. Um, and
Actually, you're
then
right. With John doing cons now, it could be
yeah,
it could go a Force Awakens kind of con.
I could see that. It all comes down to what does Disney really want to invest in, and also who can the promoters convince to go to Japan? Because I think that's part of it too. Like it's one thing when the show's in California or Orlando or whatever, and it's a 2 hour flight and it's not super disruptive. Going to Japan is a whole thing, and it is a long trip, whether it's paid for or not. You're still taking a ton of time out of your schedule. Um, and then you don't really know how it's going to go. And I would say that Star Wars isn't necessarily in a bad place, but it's not in the best place. Like the celebration you wanted to go to was 2017. Like that was the zenith of it all. Like it was the 40th anniversary and things were on an upswing. 2019 was like a recovery after like everyone being pissed
Then you
about
had
Last Jedi and Solo and everything. And then 2020 didn't happen, and 2022 was COVID, and 2023 was London, which also felt weird. And this one is feeling like a lot of stuff didn't land. People are going to be pissed about Acolyte. People are going to be pissed about you name it. Why the Ray movie isn't happening? Where's the canceled Taika Waititi trilogy? Where we hate Ryan Johnson, but where's his trilogy? Like, there's going to be so much of that because they've made so many. Like, where's the Lando show? Like, there's so many things that I think people could complain about.
oh did you oh that was one, and it might have been a total clickbait. But who was it that they were saying was going to be in a was doing Star Wars, um, and damn
Whoever
it.
it is, I don't believe them.
Yeah, and I was like, and immediately went to what you said is why are they announcing this before they even have a movie title?
Hmm.
Oh, he's coming to Star Wars. No, he's
No,
not coming to Star
no one's
Wars
coming to
until we see
Star
him
Wars. Yeah.
until they're on the movie screen.
Someone took a phone call once with Kathy's assistant. Like it's that pitiful, and they leak that shit to Deadline. And I find it embarrassing at this point for actually not just Star Wars, but Disney in general. Disney, here's the thing: Star Wars fans are a different breed of people. Like Disney cancels lots of projects, but Star Wars is the one that gets the most attention because we're the ones out there making YouTube videos about it. But all studios cancel projects, and Warner Brothers actually should be the one that everyone is the most laser focused on for like literally removing finished projects from the slate for tax breaks. And I feel
Yeah,
like
that's
they still
that is
get less shit than Star Wars does for not following through on production. Like there's just a different standard that we hold Star Wars to than everything else in the world somehow.
well, we're used to if they were announcing a movie it was coming out when George Lucas owned the place.
Yeah.
He would put out a video of him. It's my first day going to write
Yeah.
the next movie. Here's my pad of paper, here's my
Mhm.
pencil, and I'm going to start writing it.
Yeah.
But you knew if he was writing it, it was coming out.
Well, this brings up the age-old question, the difference between a movie studio and a publicly traded company, right? Like George Lucas worked for Lucasfilm, which was an independent film house. Um, yes, they created a blockbuster franchise with Star Wars, and they're as close to like corporate as it gets in terms of like if you think about independent studios. I don't think people
Yeah.
think of Star Wars as being an independent movie, right? But it is. It's the biggest independent movie of all time, basically. Um, it's outside of the Hollywood studio system. That's how he wanted to operate, and now it's part of the Disney cog, the big machine. It's a cog in the big machine, I should say. It's an important cog, but it is a cog, and it has to like turn and make profit and please the shareholders and create content and sell merch and do all the things that every other cog in there, like Frozen and Princesses and Marvel and everything else has to do for the big machine. The same way Warner Brothers has a big machine and NBC Universal has a big machine. Um, the ones that don't even have a big machine, like they're just making movies. I wonder sometimes how they even stay in business. Like I hear about Neon and A24 all the time, and somehow they're doing profitable business by just making movies. And I don't think they're selling an ounce of merch, which is amazing. They're just like literally making art, which is killer. And I think that is shrinking though, like because everything is becoming commoditized. And I work in
Yeah.
licensed products, so I see it firsthand.
Yeah.
So where does that take us in 25? That's the big question. Which, by the way, we're going to answer a lot of on Wednesday. That wasn't like a shameless plug. So Wednesday, usually we have either Daughters of the Galaxy or the Nerf Herders, but because it is New Year's Day, we have a very special presentation from a variety of VCN hosts, myself included. I'm actually moderating a panel with a bunch of the other hosts where we talk about what we most loved about 2024 and what we're most looking forward to in 2025. Now, Skip didn't get a chance to join that panel, so I'm going to ask you those questions while we start watching Clone Wars, which we're
Okay.
going to start doing in a minute, because I do want to end tonight's episode close to on time, so I can just go to sleep. I know it's really sad. Usually I'm like party animal. I'm like, yes, it's New Year's Eve. Let's fucking party. And then we're going to go out tomorrow night and on New Year's Day, and yeah. And then I'm like on the opposite
Mark's
end
like,
of that, where I'm like, no, I'm caffeinating right now to just stay up, to get to zero. But all right, let's queue up our Disney Pluses. We are in season 1, episode. Is it 13? Let me find the
13.
graphic. Yeah, if I could find the graphic
I
in
could have
here.
swore I asked you that before the show. So was it?
Yes, I knew it wasn't the Gundam. Here we go. Yeah, it is. Here, let me show this. This is Jedi Crash. And here's the. Do you want to read the description?
Sure. When Anakin Skywalker is gravely injured in battle, Jedi General Aayla, I never know how to say her name, Secura, must teach Ahsoka the Jedi philosophy of having no personal attachments while they brave a hostile planet in search of medical help for the Jedi Knight.
So Anakin's taken out of commission, and of course, everyone's going to tell Ahsoka, "Don't get attached." And I'm going to throw something at the TV because that's how it goes. All right, and then here's the moral for the episode: greed and fear of loss are the roots that lead to the tree of evil. It's a weird one. That's weirdly written, right? Are the roots that lead to the tree of evil? What the hell? Who wrote this?
Yeah, and a
Um,
tree of evil,
the roots that lead to the tree of evil is just like a weird. It's a weird
greed
sentence.
and fear of loss
Yeah.
feed. Yeah.
I don't know about all that. That being
They're
said,
usually
this is a
pretty good.
pretty good episode, and it sets up a two-parter where George Takei appears in the next one. I thought it was this one, but he's the villain of the next episode. So yeah, everyone queue up your Disney Plus machines. Season 1, Episode 13, Jedi Crash, and then we'll do the second part of this arc next week, which is Defenders of Peace, which is a really good one because Anakin's back in action. You didn't think he was going to die, did you? There's no tension around that. All right, let me find the countdown on here.
Could it happen? Is it possible?
We can only hope. Where the hell is the 10-second countdown? Every time I think I know where something is, it moves. That's the 41. That's the 1 minute.
That's
Where's the
like
10? Here
you
it
got
is.
to move the cheese.
Yeah. All
They're
right.
moving the cheese on you.
Here comes the countdown. Everyone get ready to season 1, episode 13, Jedi Crash. So Skip, while we were on our pre-record, because tomorrow's episode of the VCN New Year's 2024 to 2025 extravaganza, a few of the hosts got together and we talked about what our favorite parts were from 2024. And while this has been a personally trying year and sad one and a tough year in general, there were some bright spots in Star Wars at least. Did you have a couple of good things that you really liked about the year or anything you wanted to gush about now that we're on the second to last day?
I decided to fill my year up with about as much fun as I could have. So let's see if I can work my way through it. I went to Richmond for GalaxyCon. Saw a lot of people there, including the mainstays of Matt, James, and Ashley. Got to talk to all of them there. And then, and in fact, that was the first time I'd seen Ashley since London in 23. And then let's see, what else did I do? I did. What was the second one? I'm trying to think what the second one was.
It wasn't ICCC. You missed that
No, no,
one.
no,
It was
no. I
the
did
storm.
ICCC in 23. I didn't do it in
Yeah.
24 because the hurricane. I was supposed to do ICCC.
Yep, I remember
But,
that. Yeah.
I went to a Fanboy in Knoxville.
Oh, that's right.
I
Yep.
went to the California trip.
Mhm.
I'm missing one in there that's going to bug me that I can't remember it. It's old people stuff.
Well, and you
but,
had everyone hosted at the ranch.
Yeah,
I want to call it
and
the ranch, but what do you call it? The Jedi
um,
Way.
Jedi Way at the
Yeah.
farm. I call it the farm.
The farm.
Yeah,
Okay. I don't know if I want to say I'm going to the farm, but
yeah. My old house, we always used to refer to it as. I could never call it a ranch, even though we had horses and an indoor lighted arena and outdoor arena and paddocks and all kinds of stuff, and our life revolved around that. It was too small to call a ranch, so I always referred to it as the farm.
Got it.
And then when we moved to the new facilities here at Jedi Way, I still refer to it as the farm. But we had went to Disney World with my family. Went to I had 16 of the Cantina family that come visit. It was just a really good year of stuffing myself. I think it was like six. I was supposed to be at 6 cons this year, and if you include California as the family vacation as a con, but I ended up with 5 because I got whacked from the ICC trip.
Yeah.
But yeah, really had a good time. Oh no, gosh, now I know what it was. I went to 2 fan expos. I went to Chicago and Dallas. I went to Dallas Fan Expo. Saw David Tennant there. That was taking my daughter-in-law to go see David Tennant so she could see Doctor Who, and Jackie ran that show. That was real cool. And then I went to Chicago so I could see Mark Hamill, and that was a blast. And
that's awesome.
Got some new family members there. I was standing in line for Mark Hamill, and I'm whipping out my TV and just the little QR code that you see up here in the corner, upper right in the corner. I was letting people scan that, and they were joining up. And Spencer was like, these people are going, "Hey Skip, thanks for telling me about the group and so forth." On the page, I was like, yeah, it was fun. Had a good time. It was a really good year. But I'll tell you what, when the weekend before Christmas, I was toast.
Yeah, I believe it. Well, I felt the same way that I ran myself ragged, right? Like I said yes to everything this year, even when it was maybe not the most financially responsible thing to do. I went to Fire Island multiple times. I went on the VCN family vacation again. Big shout out to Mike for letting me bunk at his place for multiple days there. Got to spend quality time with many of the VCN family members, Sherry included. which was fantastic, and Lori and everyone who was there was wonderful. Rhode Island Comic Con, which I think Ashley and I were like connected at the hip for like 3 straight days, which was awesome. Of course, saw Spencer there as well, and I had the great meetup like we always do at Rhode Island. Like I'm just very grateful for those things that happened throughout the year that made the rest of the year much more manageable. It was I joke all the time about like my day and a half in the hospital like was such a setback in like every fucking way. Like ended up on antibiotics for like 3 weeks. I couldn't lift weights, I couldn't exercise, I was tired for weeks. I used every sick day I had. Like I feel like it like knocked the wind out of me for like so much longer than it should have. And it disrupted a lot of plans too. And so then after that I was like, yes to everything, yes to everything, yes to everything, like whatever you want to do, wherever we're going, like the answer
We're
is
going.
yes. Like, yeah, it was crazy. And then a few things I couldn't actually physically get to because I literally ran out of days. I was like, I'm out of vacation. I'm out of sick days. I actually do need to do things at home. I have to see my family. I have to do other stuff. So, but yeah, the memories to Ashley's point is what it's all about, right? Like, want all of the experiences. So, but yeah, we had a mixed bag of a year, but a lot of fun stuff on the Star Wars front and
Well,
all the
I,
trips and the
got to
meetup.
meet, wearing my yellow Hu Yang shirt, Hu Yang's for the younglings,
Hmm.
with David Tennant in the picture, and him looking at that, going, "Check that out,"
Hmm.
um,
That's very
and it was that was a blast, getting to finally meet Mark Hamill and him seeing my shirt,
yeah, that's
as
awesome.
well. Um, and Star Wars was interesting still this year. I mean, we got Skeleton Crew towards the end of the year.
Mhm.
Acolyte, though, it was a mixed bags of weird and sometimes good stuff, and most of the time a little off character. It was hey, getting to watch some Star Wars content, something to debate, something to
Mhm.
talk about.
Yeah.
Getting to do the show.
Mhm.
Finishing up Rebels, starting Clone Wars.
Yep.
This is great fun. You
I'm
know,
so glad you
um,
joined. When we invited you, we were like, I don't know if he's going to do it. I don't want to pressure him. And I want him to say yes. But also, I understand what a commitment it is, right? Like, in every Monday situation is tough, which is why we turned this into a 3-person panel. So if any of us needs to dip, it's much more
yes.
manageable. Um, yeah, like tonight, I believe me, I was on the cusp of calling in sick, and Ashley sort of beat me to the punch. But it makes sense. I'm actually going to be out in 2 weeks because I'll be at the Halloween and Party Expo. So there's these like, it, you know, um, yeah, I do love just the ability to sort of pop in and out with the group though, which is really nice.
It was I kind of, I didn't make a intent. I didn't say at the beginning of the year, my intent is to do this,
Hmm.
but I just, there was a little bit of freedom, even though I managed to squeeze freedom in the last 2 years, because I went to Germany and London.
Hmm.
Um, but this year I was just like, screw it, I'm going to have fun. I'm
Hmm.
going to, and it was like, I wasn't intending to do it, but then all of a sudden I was like, wow, hold on. I'm going to Richmond. I skipped Raleigh this year, but then I went to California. I went to Chicago, Dallas, California, and I was supposed to go to Knoxville. And it took a interstate being washed away before I didn't do that.
It's
Because I
wild.
probably would have, if the road was still there, I probably would have gone. My wife was
Yeah.
like,
No, no.
"Go!" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can't get there. Not
On my
happening."
FOMO list is that and the trip to Jedi Way. Those were the two. I was like, I
Yes,
should have gotten there. But
yes.
2025, these are the things I'm listing out now to make sure that there will be an ICCC, a trip to Jedi Way, Rhode Island Comic Con. These are the must dos. There isn't a family vacation next year, so there's celebration, which I'm not going to. And I'm going to say it now because I want to put it out there to everyone. I will be your at home correspondent during celebration while I am physically here in the United States of America. That is how we are going to roll in 2025. So I don't want to be sent there. Please, no one sponsor me to go. I'm not interested in attending. Thank you. Um, but in all seriousness, I'm going to say yes to basically everything else.
We'll see.
I did want to shout out one thing real quick in the episode. Aayla Secura, or Ayla Secura, is voiced by the incomparable Jennifer Hale. She is a prolific voice actress. So if you click into her IMDb, uh, it goes on and on. It's like miles and miles of stuff. But I did want to highlight very recently something from this year. She's in X-Men 97. She's the new Jean Grey, which is very exciting. So if anyone watched X-Men 97, just know that that's who she is. If you think you might recognize that voice, she actually has a very malleable voice. So she doesn't always sound the same in all of her voice acting work. She's a little bit like James Arnold Taylor, like that, where she can kind of do a lot of different things. She's done Powerpuff Girls. She's done a bunch of anime. She's in The Dragon Prince. I loved her in DuckTales, the most recent iteration of DuckTales from a few years ago. She's done Final Fantasy. There's a lot of anime on here and a lot of things that I don't recognize and a ton of video games. But you know who this lady is. You have heard her voice. And I think that she's overlooked sometimes, right? Like some of these sort of utility players in voice acting are maybe not as famous from like one role, but she's excellent. She's Mallory in the Mighty Ducks. I did not realize that. Oh boy. Ashley, that IMDb page is out of control. And Tom Kane is in the episode as not just the narrator, he's also playing Yularen. So we saw him a little bit earlier too. Otherwise, it's mostly your core cast. It's Matt Lanter, Ashley Eckstein, Matthew Wood, a couple other supporting players. Yep, playing all the clones.
Yes. There's a few clones. There's got to be a few Ds.
Yep. He's in as many episodes, basically, as it's like Tom Kane and then him. And then a big drop off till you get to everyone else.
I just I loved watching him. I don't know if you got to see that Mark. It wasn't. I don't think it was in London. It was in Anaheim, where I watched him. And I'm blocking the name for the little girl that plays Omega.
Oh, Michelle.
So Michelle and him were sitting in on a panel in the big room in front of all of us, and they started doing a live read of one of the episodes.
Oh boy.
And he said, this is how we do it. I don't go in and do all of, one character and then all of another character. I'm switching back and forth, and this is this is Bad Batch, and he's going from one character to the other without even missing a breath. It's amazing to watch him do that. Him and James, I love, when you come to James's table and he's always got his little 8x10 of all the 50,000 characters that he's been. And you can sit there and just start pointing, and he will start bouncing voices left and right. And it's just so damn cool to watch him do that.
It's such an incredible skill. Like, I could never. It's unreal to hear it. And you close your eyes and like, these are different people. Like, even when D is doing the different versions of Bad Batch, like I was actually just after we recorded our New Year's thing, multiple people had said Bad Batch as something that they loved from the year. And I mentioned Ashley was going to cry. So good timing with that comment right there. And yeah, you can hear his various different, it's him, but it's totally a different character. And I was watching a listicle, I think it was from Star Wars Explained. I've watched a bunch of listicles in the past couple days, and they were saying their favorite redemption was Crosshair. And I was like, yeah, that's a really good one. Like, they actually did him right. And they were playing some of Crosshair's audio. And I was like, oh man, like D is so good. That character is so differentiated from all the other clones. And it sounds like a clone, and it kind of sounds like D, but it sounds like a completely different character. Like, how do you balance that? It's amazing.
What was that Clint Eastwood movie where they where he was in the army and he had the idiots that he was in charge of, Mario Van Peebles was in the movie.
I don't know.
With Clint Eastwood, and the guy that played. So the very first thing I saw when I saw Crosshair was, oh, that's that guy from that movie. Oh, jeez. Now I'm gonna have to Google it up.
To Google it. Yeah.
Yes, it's like, oh, yep. I'm I can't believe.
I hate when that happens, when the information just like evaporates from your brain. And I was like, oh.
Oh, I can see the movie and everything.
Yep. Oh yeah, you can like do full quotes from it. I can't name the character or the person. Ashley is saying Heartbreak Ridge.
Yes, Heartbreak Ridge is it.
She's more
Heartbreak
lucid
Ridge.
than both of us. Like this is wild. I thought this lady was sick. We're gonna put
And
you on air in a minute, Ashley.
yeah, we're gonna pull her on. And so Heartbreak Ridge, the guy that was in the U.S. Military that had the excellent group. His guys were all straight face.
Mhm.
He looks like Crosshair. Take a look
Oh,
at him.
Crosshair. He's one of my favorite characters, and I like. I'm so glad that Ashley would text me and be like, "Did you watch Bad Batch?" And I'm like, "No." I was not. I could not. I did not like season one, and then season two got good, and then season three was great. It was just progressively better the whole way we went, and I was so excited by the finale and what we were building to. And I loved everything about it. My only complaint, and it's a Lucasfilm wide issue, is they're still trying to make like how Palpatine returned happened through cloning, and so they're constantly trying to explain that. And even though the adventure they gave us on Tantus was amazing, it still ultimately served the purpose of like how did Palpatine clone himself. I don't care anymore. I stopped caring. Once the meme exploded, you just have to like understand that you're never going to explain it away. We're still going to make fun of it. Like there's nothing you can do to convince the fandom that it isn't stupid. Like regardless of all the work you're doing across every single one of your series, we all hate it. So just stop and just like focus on something else. Like, but
They're
that being
trying to
said,
they're
everything
trying
else
to
looks better
relive
just to me.
the Clone Wars spark. Because here's the
Yeah,
Clone Wars and here's Attack of the Clones,
yeah,
and Attack of the Clones got better with the Clone Wars series, and
sure.
they've been trying to do that to the sequels, or more importantly, Rise of
Yeah,
Skywalker,
Rise of Skywalker. Yeah,
and they're just never going to be able to justify it. It's just not going to happen.
yeah. I'm surprised. Okay, I shouldn't say it that way. Resistance was meant to be an on ramp for younger kids. So it doesn't surprise me that they went with a particular animation style and this and that. But like, I'm surprised they didn't also do or do instead a serious animated show a la Clone Wars during the new trilogy time period, either leading up to um, Force Awakens or somewhere between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. Like, I don't understand how that wasn't the plan because Resistance just didn't work. And look, I love Christopher Sean. You guys know that. Like, I
Oh
wanted him
yeah,
to be at the family
yeah, but the show
vacation.
did not.
I brought all of them to Celebration in 2019. That show was bad though. Like just full stop. Like the actors were good in it, but like the show was not written well and it didn't work for adults and it certainly didn't work for kids either. And part of that was Disney XD and part of that was like where Star Wars was at the time. But like I didn't think Resistance is going to ever be looked like 20 years from now. None of us is going to be talking about. Remember Resistance? What
Yeah,
a diamond in the rough. No one's going to be saying that.
yeah,
Um,
nobody's
no,
popping that like
no.
Rebels and Clone Wars.
So, like, why didn't we get a serious animated series in the new trilogy time period or something around that time? Like, or anything to tie in? I felt like even the books were like young reader and stuff like that. I feel like they whiffed on that whole time period because we just keep going back to 4, 5, 6. We keep going back to original trilogy with all the other ancillary content.
The lemur people, that cracks me up.
Yeah,
You
these
know,
guys are weird.
I kept on I kept on waiting for this piece of brilliance to come out of yeah, he was the live action droidicas as he's rolling down the road. Did you catch that? He looks like a miniature droidica.
Which
Um,
one?
he when they started traveling, the young lemur guy
Oh,
turned
yeah,
into
yeah.
he started rolling like a droidica. I
Yep.
was like, okay. But, I was waiting for, at the end of this episode, what I was really expecting to hear was this great, wise, there's this argument going on the whole time this episode's going on is should we choose peace or should we get involved? Should we choose peace and I was waiting for something really brilliant to come out of it. And they were building the cases on both sides, but they never had that defining statement of this is what should have happened or this is what they should do.
Hmm. Yeah, they don't want to take a swing, right? They want to present a question, but not necessarily take a side, which I think is not helping the situation. Um, yeah, what is it? Neutrality in a situation where there's an oppressor and an oppressed just means that you're siding with the oppressor. Like that's what neutrality actually means. And I was like, oh, that's fair. And then there's the um,
If you're going to,
what's that? Oh my god, it's this thing about intolerance.
well, this whole thing
You
of
can't
violence.
tolerate the intolerance.
Yeah, you can either, when is it all right to fight? When is it, not all right to fight?
Right. Oh, I'm gonna mess up the quote. It's a paradox. Here we go.
There
The
we go.
paradox of tolerance. Yeah. It's a philosophical concept suggesting that if a society extends tolerance to those who are intolerant, it risks enabling the eventual dominance of intolerance, thereby undermining the very principle of tolerance. Now, you're saying tolerance a lot in that sentence, so I feel like it gets swept up, but that makes perfect sense. As soon as you allow Nazis to roam the streets, you're putting everyone else's rights at risk. So we do have to have limitations on things like.
Oh, shoot. Either I'm gone or Mark's gone. Well, and you know what's really the problem with this? Is that I don't have any of the buttons. Frozen Mark Von Allen. Okay. Thank you, Jeff, because I was worried that I had fallen out, not Mark. So I was like, okay, am I talking to nobody? Or is it, okay, it's Mark. And now it's both of us. Jeff, save us. Can you guys still hear me? Because I bet you when Mark fell out, that slid my picture over, and I can't control anything. So, well, I'll just, there I go. Hey. So now I'm Mark. Playing the part of Mark Van Olen tonight will be Skip Ruckle as he finishes out the show of Clone Wars Revisited, except Skip has no access to any of the buttons, so I can't even end the show when the time's up. But let's talk about this show. It's over.
I'm back.
Boom, boom. What did I say to you, Mark?
My Wi-Fi fully knocked out.
That's hilarious because here I was before the show saying, what happens if Mark gets really sick and he has to leave the show for something and I'm here by myself?
Oh,
and
no.
All of a sudden, and so Mark, I was in this like, okay, am I here and can everybody hear me, or am I gone and you're still doing the show without me? Do I talk? And then all of a sudden, Ashley and Sherry are like, no, we can hear you, and I'm like, okay. So here we go.
Perfect.
The one
I'm sure
man,
it was a thrilling 90 seconds. It's all good. This is why I joke all the time. Good thing that we don't do this shit for a living. We're all here for fun.
Well, and the funny thing was, what I was telling Mark is I don't have access to the buttons. I can't even turn the show off. I just have to keep talking all night until everybody got bored and left.
Oh, no. Yeah, this is where, if your producer goes, it's over. Just exit out. Just close. The stream will go forever.
I see Jeff pop in. Frozen Mark Van Olen. I was like, oh, good. Jeff can jump in.
Yeah, let me re-enter. So I have, because there are actually 3 boxes in the back, let me re-enter. I see your comment, Jeff. I'm re-entering right now. Oh, why is it not letting me? Just give me 1 second. I'll try to get in here. StreamYard, what's going on?
That was funny.
And then this is saying this is not connected. What the hell now? Well, we're closing out in a minute anyway, Jeff. If you can hang on for 90 seconds, we'll be out of your hair. Did the episode end? See, I fully lost track of where
the episode ended.
Okay,
because I was like, okay, well, let's talk. Since I'm here by myself, let me look up at the episode. Episode has ended. Shit, how do I turn the show off? Well, I'm just going to hang here until somebody jumps on and cuts me off.
Amazing. Well, with that in mind, we are not only at the end of our episode, but at the end of our year over here.
Yes.
On the VCN, which is very exciting. We had a crazy 2024, really good one for the VCN, and we're really excited about everything coming in 2025. Make sure you tune in to everything that's happening this week on the VCN. Tomorrow's happy hour, even though it's New Year's Eve, there's still going to be a little happy hour streamy stream. Wednesday, we've got our special VCN host celebration of all things 2024, and looking forward to what we're looking forward to in 2025. And then Thursday is the Thursday night watch along for the latest episode of Skeleton Crew, which was on everyone's either favorite of 24 or what they're most looking forward to in 2025, which is crazy. And of course, celebrations coming up in 2025. So be sure to get your tickets tomorrow for the Not So Virtual Cantina event, which is, I think tickets go on sale tomorrow at I forget exactly what time. I'm trying to pull up the graphic over here.
Yes,
it's Wednesday morning. It's the 1st.
Oh, terrific. Yep. Oh yeah, not tomorrow. Wednesday. I keep thinking tomorrow is New Year's, but yeah, on sale to the general public on January 1st, 9 a.m. Eastern. So very exciting. And of course, thank you to our sponsor, Hyperspace Props. You can use code NSVCSE, that is Not So Virtual Cantina Special Edition, for 10% off your purchase. They are a sponsor for Not So, which is fantastic. And then that is everything happening. Thank you guys so much for, oh yeah, and check me out on the news desks this week too. It'll be me and Gary this Saturday doing our first celebration news desk. There's the correct graphic. I'm glad, Jeff. Thank you for staying, Jeff. To put up the right graphics. That'll be airing this Saturday, the first one with me and Gary, as we talk about all things you're going to need to get ready for Celebration 2025. Can you believe it? It's really here.
Yes.
It's wild. Yeah.
Whether you want it to be or not.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone, for staying with us. Happy New Year. Skip, any parting words for the group?
Enjoy yourselves.
Yeah, good advice. Yes, everyone have fun. Take care of each other. Follow us on all our social channels. Have a very, very happy New Year, and we will see you in 2025.
Good night, citizens of the Republic.
Yes, long live the Republic, and as always, may the Force be with you.